Before the universe began, you had zero energy. After it began, you still have zero energy. The problem is we see a tremendous amount of positive energy in the universe in the form of matter and in the form of light, electromagnetic radiation. So where do you find all of that negative energy, as it were, to balance the books on this?
Welcome to the Creation Today Show, where we bring together interviews with experts and solid Bible teaching. Your host, Eric Hovind, affirms the ultimate authority of God's Word, the truth of creation, and why it matters to you.
Today we are mixing exploding universes, the Bible, and cosmic vacuum cleaners that are somehow invisible. Guys, it's going to be one fascinating conversation right here on the Creation Today Show. Before we dive in, though, to the swirling mysteries of black holes, the explosive claims of the Big Bang, and of course, the question that's probably on everybody's mind, is modern physics discovering truth or just dressing up speculation in a lab coat? I do want to let you know about some of the wonderful events that Creation Today is privileged to be a part of. By the way, they're listed as always at creationtoday.org/events. Here's a couple highlights. We've got the Evangelism Summit coming very soon. It's going to provide 4 days of the best evangelism training in an academy-style environment, and that's happening June 11th through the 14th. You could join Living Waters US, Living Waters UK, and Creation Today for this evangelism training of a lifetime. 4 days of classroom experience and on-the-street experience that I think is going to really help equip you to share your faith anywhere and with anyone. Spots are filling up, so if you plan on attending, you need to reach out to our office right away. Also, this year marks the 100th anniversary of, put it in the comments if you know what it is before I say it, go, the Scopes Monkey Trial 100 years ago. So on July 2nd, down in Vero Beach, Florida, the home of William Jennings Bryan, we're going to be hosting a tribute day with information about his life, his campaigns, the truth about the famous Scopes trial that changed literally the trajectory of education and evolution in American life. Looking forward to that. That's going to be an amazing event. And then right after that, July 24th to 26th, our friend Dr. Joel Brown of the Creation Research Society is hosting a conference in St. Louis, Missouri. It's going to be 3 days of updates from creation scientists from around the world. We will be there, and we hope to film as much as possible so that we can bring that to you guys and some fascinating Creation Today shows as well. And then finally, in August 18th to 22nd, we're going to be touring Mount St. Helens with Answers in Genesis, the Mount St. Helens Creation Center, and the Design Science Association for the 45th anniversary tour. It's truly going to be an incredible experience, and it's got some of your favorite creation science speakers. You're going to want to be at the Mount St. Helens Creation Experience. And I got to say, we feel incredibly blessed to be a part of so many amazing things that are happening in the world of creation science. Honestly, it's a great time to be alive and to be part of a movement that we want to take over the whole world. And we're not shy about that. Christ is King. He's Lord of all, and his word is the foundation of truth. Now, whether you are a believer in Scripture or not, today, we're going to learn how to separate what's real from what's ridiculous in the world of modern science. So get ready to think a little bit deeper, laugh hopefully a little bit, and strengthen your faith as we explore black holes, big bangs, and biblical truth right here on the Creation Today Show. By the way, if you want to know what a creation scientist thinks about this, it helps to talk to a creation scientist. One of the men on the front lines of the biblical authority and creation science battles is a degreed astronomer and physicist. He looks at the whole universe and all of science through the lens of Scripture. He's an author, researcher, writer, and speaker for Answers in Genesis. He loves his cheer, I'm going to have to ask him. Ladies and gentlemen, help me welcome back to the Creation Today Show, Dr. Danny Faulkner. Dr. Faulkner, welcome back, buddy.
Thank you. And it's cheer wine.
It is cheer wine. I was like, cheer wine. That's the drink that if I see it, I got to buy some just because of Dr. Faulkner. How you doing today, sir?
Real good. And yourself?
Oh, blessed beyond measure. What a time to be alive. You've been studying science for years. I'll let you say it. How many years?
I was in college a half century ago. So then I went to grad school after that. I graduated from Bob Jones University in 1976. So it'll be a big golden anniversary for me next year.
Nice.
By the way, there at Bob Jones, they don't have fraternities. We have what are called literary societies. And you do all your social stuff within these organizations. And I was proud to be a member of William Jennings Bryan, named after William Jennings Bryan. So
Oh,
I really
fascinating.
perked up when you mentioned his name. You know, I think Bryan was probably the last really outspoken born again man in American politics. It's been 100 years. We need somebody else like him again.
Wow. Well,
I,
I'm
I
enjoying.
wouldn't I wouldn't agree with all of his politics, but he was a great man. He really was.
And that's what this event wants to do is it wants to highlight some of what he did. They've got people that are going to talk about what he did on the campaign trail and things like that, how he campaigned. They've actually got some original memorabilia there from him. So I'm looking forward to seeing that and learning that as well. We do need
And his
that
Cross
truth.
of Gold speech was probably the best speech in U.S. history. It was an incredible
Cross
speech.
of Gold.
Cross of Gold, yes.
I'm gonna have to look that one
Amazing
up. Oh,
speech. Yeah.
all
And he
right,
gave
Amanda,
that.
make sure I read that one. Oh, that's
Oh,
fantastic.
yeah.
Well, today I want to talk about Big Bang, black holes in the Bible, and how does all this come together? I reached out to you a couple months ago and said, man, I'm fascinated where modern physics is really at, because it seems like sometimes they're in the real realm and sometimes they're in the ridiculous realm. And like, I need some help distinguishing sometimes where are they at on these things. And I thought let's have some fun today and take a couple topics and let you kind of expound on, is that real or is that ridiculous? Does that sound good?
Sounds great.
All right, I thought I'd start off. I heard you say this in the Genesis movie that we did back in 2017, that it's still unmatched in my personal, humble, unbiased opinion, genesismovie.com. You talked about the first and second laws of thermodynamics as the most fundamental laws in all of science. And I thought that was fascinating. Are we still there? Because it seems like some of the things that physicists are trying to come out with would actually go against, or some of the things they're claiming would go against some of these fundamental laws, like the laws of thermodynamics. Can you spend a minute on that one?
No, it's not changed. The first and second laws are considered to be fundamental by just about everybody. I've heard many prominent physicists and not even believers, non-Christian physicists, saying the same thing about the first and second laws of thermodynamics. They rule supreme. And there was a famous quote by Arthur Eddington, I believe, that if your theory, no matter how good it is, if it violates the laws of thermodynamics, you're dead. It can't be done. So they're there, and they're part of the way the world works. That's not been changed.
And when we go to thermodynamics, just the laws themselves indicate that there was something outside of the universe that created the universe. Would that be a succinct, maybe you got a more succinct way of saying that, because the first and second law kind of contradict if we go back in time? That's what I remember you talking about.
Just take me a minute and a half to do this real quick. The
Okay.
first law says that energy can neither be created nor can it be destroyed. So if you had a universe that began sometime in the past, it would have violated that. So therefore, the universe must be eternal. On the other hand, the second law says that energy becomes less useful. We have the less usefulness of energy we describe by a thing called entropy, defined by entropy. So it says that the entropy of the universe is always increasing. That is, the inability to do work with the energy in the universe is always increasing. So if you do that, then if the universe has always existed, then the universe should have reached a maximum entropic state. No work would be possible. And that's clearly not the situation. So therefore, the universe must have had a beginning. Well, those two laws work hand in glove today to describe how the world works today. But if you extrapolate it indefinitely into the past, you come with a contradiction. One has to be thrown under the bus or the other being thrown under the bus. Which one do you do that to? And I think, to me, the fact that they both work hand in glove today tells me, as a scientist, someone who knows something about logic and reasoning, that the universe, the origin of the universe, defies a physical, natural explanation. It requires that there be some sort of creation event. It doesn't tell you who the creator is. That's the limitation of natural revelation given to you in Romans 1, 18, 19, and 20. It tells us that God's powerful and he exists, but it doesn't tell you anything more about him.
I still wonder, how do scientists today understand these fundamental principles and yet not believe in like somebody creating the heavens and the earth. This is the new, by the way, Defender Study Bible. I just got this from Master Books, the new Henry Morris Defender Study Bible. We have scientists today that are going, hello, this is the case. And other scientists going, yeah, but we can overcome that. I mean, what's going on there, and what have they come up with to try to overcome these fundamental laws that clearly point to a designer, a creator?
Yeah, ever since the Big Bang became widely accepted a half century ago, there have been many attempts to talk about it. And I think one of the best expositions on that had to be Lawrence Krauss's book, A Universe from Nothing, came out in 2012, I believe. And the argument is that the universe, the total energy of the universe could be zero. And if the universe has a total energy of zero, then it could pop into existence without violating the second law of thermodynamics, or the first law of thermodynamics, because you have zero energy. You start with before the universe began, you had zero energy. After it began, you still have zero energy. The problem is we see a tremendous amount of positive energy in the universe in the form of matter and in the form of light radiation, electromagnetic radiation. So where do you find all of that negative energy, as it were, to square the books, balance the books on this? And it's very speculative how they do that. If you read Krauss's book, and I have, you go through the book and the word might, may, could, all those kind of words used over and over and over and over again. It's a highly speculative interpretation of some questionable things in the interpretation or philosophy of physics. And it's just sad to me that people will stake their eternal destinies gambling on that hope that maybe they might be right about the intuition of what physics lies ahead of us. And that's a foolish bargain to make, I think.
Wow, no doubt about that. For those of you that are not believers, or you don't believe in a higher power, I think the science would certainly point you that direction if you looked at it objectively, if you looked at it through the lens without preconceived ideas. And that's why, Dr. Faulkner, you talk about this all the time. All of us come to science with preconceived ideas. What would you say to somebody who's looking at it and they would say, no, Lawrence Krauss is right, the universe could come from nothing. That's totally possible.
Well, then they're appealing to things not in evidence. They say they want to be scientific about this, but they're saying, well, maybe the universe works this way. Maybe there's these fields out there. We don't have no evidence for them. Maybe the universe is arranged this way. It works this way. So the total energy of the universe is zero. Well, that's a faith statement. That is a faith statement. And it's no different really than your faith statement and my faith statement, that there is a creator that's created the world around us. There's an absolute equality between those two when it comes to logic in itself, and also an absolute equality when it comes to science, because they're trying to invoke things that are not, I repeat, not in evidence.
So one of the things I've heard, because you mentioned the fine tuning of the universe, hey, the universe is so fine tuned. I mean, these laws are exact. If you change the law of gravity or the conservation of energy, any of these laws, if you changed them just a tiny bit, the universe doesn't exist. And so people have come up with the idea of the multiverse theory, that maybe there are an infinite number of universes out there. And if one of them, if there's an infinite number, one of them had to get these laws right. The multiverse theory, real or ridiculous? Which one?
Yeah, half century ago, a man named Brandon Carter coined this thing called the anthropic principle, that the universe appears to be designed for our existence. And Barrow and Tipler, a decade or so later, wrote the book, the anthropic principle, describing all about it. And they had like 1,100 pages in that book, and they went all the way through everything about the anthropic principle. And they got done. They said it just appears to be that way. You got all the evidence in the world in front of you, and you dismiss it. It just looks that way, but it really isn't designed at all. But now they've gone to this idea of multiverse from several different directions to get there. But the idea is that there's a multitude, an infinity of universes out there, new universes possibly popping into existence all the time. And so if you have an infinite number of universes, it shouldn't be surprising that at least a few of them would be conducive to life. If you shuffle the cards long enough, something good will come out of that deck of cards. And it's not surprising then we're in such a universe, because we couldn't exist in any other one. So of all the huge number of universes out there, there are only a handful of those, a small percentage, that actually support life and have life. So that's what they mean by it appearing to be designed. It really isn't. It's just a random thing. But of course, again, they're invoking something that's not in evidence. We have no evidence that there is a multiverse. We simply have the evidence of this one universe we live in.
So no evidence of multiverse. They use it because they're trying to get rid of the design principle.
I think ultimately that's what's behind it. Now, a lot of them, dressed it up. As I said, you can reach it from several different directions, but I think the goal there is to get around the difficulty they have with this universe we're in.
All right, how about this one? In the realm of modern physics, real or ridiculous? Time travel to the past, real or ridiculous?
Well, I was going to tell a time travel joke, but I saw that none of your audience thought it was funny, so I won't tell the joke.
No.
Time travel is a fanciful thing. It's a good device for a.
Just got it. I just got it. I was going to tell, but I already saw you. Oh, that was good. That was good. It took me a second on that one, Doc. Oh, that's so good.
Your reaction was priceless. I thought you didn't get it, but you'll get it eventually.
I'm like, he must have. Oh, that's what he's saying. That was good.
People may have to rewind that later. What did he actually say there? Anyway, I think Henny Youngman came up with that joke years ago, so that wasn't to me originally. But at any rate,
that's so good.
The people discuss, time travel quite a bit, and it's been a theme of many science fiction stories over the years and fantasy stories. But that's what it is, fantasy and science fiction. I think it's pretty clear there's this direction in time. They call it time zero. Gets you back to this E word, entropy. That's been called time zero. It tells you which direction that the universe works, only in a forward direction. And so there is absolutely no way, knowing what we know about the world around physics, that would allow you to go back in time. If you could time travel, it would require a total revolution in physics. I can't say, I'm not clairvoyant. I can't tell you what the future holds, obviously. But unless something dramatically changes, time travel is just a fancy idea that has no basis in reality.
Okay, so you would put that one on the ridiculous side. That kind of brings up another thing that we had somebody, what was his name, Dr. He did a whole book on light and electromagnetism. Fascinating conversation with him, and he's talking about the speed of light. So real or ridiculous? Speed of light, constant, not constant? Where in physics are we with this? One of the things he said, by the way, was speed of light is, and it kind of gets me to general relativity. You did an article on this recently for Answers in Genesis. Can we ever reach the speed of light, or once the speed of light, is it measured from your location? Anyway, fascinating stuff on the speed of light. Where are we at, real or ridiculous, on the speed of light when it comes to physics today?
Okay, we know quite a bit about the speed of light. You kind of melded several questions together there.
Yeah.
I don't think it's quite so ridiculous. The speed of light could have been different in the past, particularly if you're going to invoke a miracle like I would on day 4 to explain the light travel time problem. But I think most people are thinking in terms of a natural explanation. How could you do that in the world? And the problem with that, a couple of problems. The biggie, I think, is the fact that light is not, the speed of light is not just some constant that's arbitrarily fixed. It depends upon two fundamental quantities that govern the universe. One is what's called the permittivity of free space, and the other one's called the permeability of free space. And those two respectively govern the strength of electrical interactions and magnetic interactions. If you change either one of those, you can change the speed of light, but you're also going to change the structure of matter, because electrons orbit around the nucleus of the atom under that attraction between opposite charges, between the electrons and the protons in the nucleus. And also, as they do that, they create a current which produces a magnetic field. You get a magnetic moment with orbiting electrons and spinning electrons, for that matter. And if you do that, that's going to change the structure of matter because of the other constant. It was quite a revolution in 1860s when a man, a Scottish physicist named James Clerk Maxwell, actually was able. He was trying to explain electrical and magnetic phenomenon in a single theory, and he succeeded. But then when he solved the equation simultaneously, out-tumbled this wave equation of alternating electric and magnetic fields, and it had the predicted measured speed of light. And he just wryly wrote, this hardly seems to be an accident or a coincidence. It was a huge revolution. It told us what the nature of light was, and it took physicists a half a century to come to grips with that reality, and I don't think we totally have yet. It was an amazing thing. I think the best physics theory we have is Maxwell's theory. So you can't just change the speed of light to suit you. You'd have to change everything, and that's the main reason why I'm very critical of the notion that the speed of light has changed over time.
Interesting. So, what about the idea? Have we in the lab kind of sped light up and slowed light down based on different, physical changes? Have we done that in the lab? When I've seen articles about that, have they really sped it up or slowed it down, or what's the truth about that?
I think it was about a decade ago. There was a news item about stopping light in the lab in an experiment. And
Yeah.
it took me a while to sort through that. And so many of these stories just get garbled in the reporting. You can have in a wave bundle, a bundle of light going along, you can have two things going on. You can have the phase velocity and the actual speed of light going on. And so you can get this speed of light beam going along like this, but within it, you can have this other phase velocity, like a carrier wave going on. And what they actually did is they were able to slow down and momentarily stop the phase velocity, but the speed of light continued. So it was less than what was meant to go there. I mean, it was quite a revolution to be able to stop the phase velocity. That was interesting, but it didn't stop the speed of light. That was the problem.
Okay.
Do you feel misled? I felt misled when I found out what was really going on.
Well, I do now that you say that. I mean, it's because I've heard, hey, they've sped it up, they slowed it down. So we basically can't have the speed of light as a constant. And I thinking through the different gravitational time dilation, Humphreys, I think through the different ways to talk about the speed of light, and I go, should we be saying that the speed of light is a constant, or should we not be holding to that? Or should we be saying that, you said it depends on certain principles, permeability and
permittivity of free space.
Yeah.
Permittivity and permeability.
Is that something that, like, inside of our galaxy versus outside of our galaxy, inside of our solar system versus outside? Like, how do we?
If you change those constants, it would change across the universe anywhere. Like, for instance, if you changed it here locally, but didn't change, it would be a real problem, because when we look out and we see this light coming from stars, what we see in the spectra of stars or distant galaxies depends upon those constants being close to what they are now. So if the speed of light had changed sometime else in the universe or some other time in the universe, it would show up in the light that we're receiving.
Okay. So speed of light being a constant, you put on the real, and the idea that it could change, or that it is being changed, that kind of falls on the ridiculous side, because
I think so.
It would change some of the. Okay. All right.
I think so.
Here's another one.
Some people are going to disagree with me, but that's okay.
Okay. They have the right to be wrong. Yes.
Yeah. Thank you for saying that.
I know you didn't. I hear that.
I knew you were going to say that. I heard you say it before in the future.
Okay, here's another one for me that I go, this. You watch Discovery or Nova, and man, they have these great videos with scientists with the perfect lighting, and it's a very compelling the way they talk about string theory. Real or ridiculous? Which one is string theory?
String theory was very popular 40 years ago. For those of you who don't know, string theory is this idea that the universe has additional dimensions that are they come in triplets, I think, usually, and these others are kind of folded up and rolled up and kind of tucked away. I remember hearing when I first started graduate school in the late 70s at Clemson, they had a guy came in and gave a talk on this, and I think he said, "Hello, my name is so-and-so from such a place," and I didn't understand anything after that. He talked about the universe having 27 dimensions. And it wasn't until a few decades later I found out about string theory better. And I thought, oh, that's what that guy was talking about. And from the late 70s until really probably the early 90s, they shaved it down to just 6 additional dimensions that they wanted. It's trying to explain some certain things about how matter works. And if this theory was correct, then you had to have those extra dimensions. But in the universe we have today, they're going to be kind of very tiny, as I said, rolled up inside of matter, so we can't really detect them. Well, if you can't really detect them, it's not really testable, is it, by science? be like saying I got invisible gnomes that do things, that explain things I can't understand. But how am I going to test for invisible gnomes? That's the sort of problem you're up against. And I've detected over the last 20 years that that the attitude towards string theory has cooled tremendously. It was really popular in the 80s and early 90s, but I think it's waned a lot. So I wouldn't call it fanciful. I wouldn't call it too far out there to consider, but it is an idea. It's a theory that may be on the way out. And physicists, I think theoretical physicists are maybe casting around for something else.
So string theory is moving to the ridiculous, or it is ridiculous, and because of that, moving its way out of kind of our modern thinking or our modern explanations of things.
I wouldn't put it in the ridiculous category yet, but it's a passe idea in some respects. Now, maybe kind of revived, but everything was hot and heavy 20 years ago, 30 years ago about string theory, and now you just don't hear much about it.
Interesting. Okay. One of our partners from Canada, Rodney, is wondering, is it possible that astronomers looking at the results of the James Webb Space Telescope use the possible change in the speed of light to explain away the results that they've found so far? So going back to speed of light real quick, is that a possibility that they're trying to do that because of what the James Webb Space Telescope is observing that it wasn't supposed to see, so to speak?
I'm not aware of that, and I'm pretty certain they wouldn't be talking that way. That would be a radical thing to do. And again, we're seeing spectra and things like that seem quite normal by our standards. So they need to go barking up a different tree for that one. Great question.
Okay. All right, one more before I got to let my social media go. This is one that, okay, real or ridiculous? Which one is this? Dark matter, dark energy. I've heard people talk on both sides of this, and I'm going, okay. Let me go to the physicist and the astronomer. Doc, dark matter, dark energy, real, ridiculous. What's the truth on that? Where are we at?
I'm very bullish on dark matter. I've written on our website, the Answers in Genesis website, an article. If you look for the case for dark matter, you'll find it really quickly. You were at the last ICC in Cedarville a couple of years ago, and I actually did a presentation. I don't recall you're in the room at that time, but it's also, I guess, probably a video of that out there, and also wrote that up for that as well. So you can go to the International Conference on Creationism from Cedarville a couple of years ago, and my text of that, if not the video as well, on my presentation. But I'm very bullish on dark matter. The evidence goes back now about over 90 years. And it took astronomers 50 years to catch up and finally reluctantly embrace it. So a lot of creationists are very suspicious of it, but I'm not. I've looked at the data, known about it for decades, and I believe dark matter is real. We don't know what it is. To me, that's a great mystery, and I think it's wonderful that God has made the world in such a curious way. It gives us problems to keep looking for and finding answers. Dark energy, I'm less bullish about. The dark energy has been invoked to explain a difficulty. The Hubble relation tells you, it gives a relationship between redshifts of galaxies and their distances. You get what's called the Hubble constant. You get this plot like this, and here's distance, and here's the redshift going vertically. So it goes up like this, and it's a pretty linear relationship. But they expected in a Big Bang universe, this is where creationists need to be very careful. In a Big Bang universe, because there's matter in the universe slowing the expansion of the universe down, there should have been an upturn at great distance. It should be linear and then turn up slightly at great distance. So back in the late 90s, this is now over 25 years ago, there were two independent studies that were looking for that, and they found just the opposite, a downturn. And the interpretation of that is that the universe rate of expansion of the universe is actually increasing. And so they cast about and they decided that there's something driving that expansion, and they call it dark energy, kind of paralleling dark matter, which I think is a terrible name for it. I really don't like it at all. But in a Big Bang universe, the evidence there of the downturn in the Hubble relation demands that dark energy or something like it exists. What does that mean in a biblical cosmology? Well, give me a biblical cosmology and maybe I can tell you. We don't have one yet. So it's an interesting thing that we need to explain, but we don't have an explanation yet. We just note that at great distance, there's a departure from linearity in the Hubble relation. We can't even agree amongst ourselves, among creation astronomers and other scientists, what the Hubble relation means. Does it mean expansion or does it mean something else? So I have to beg off on telling you what it is, but the data are there. The problem is, how do you interpret it? And since we reject the Big Bang, we would reject the interpretation of dark energy.
That is fascinating. That's right on the edge of physics and where we're at now. So we need more young people coming and doing physics and astronomy and actually trying to figure this out. I mean, this is the frontiers that we don't, from a biblical perspective, from, okay, if God stretched out the heavens, if God created it, in 6 days, if God, is that basically what you mean by taking the biblical worldview and then going from there to science?
Yeah. And I don't think it's my generation's going to answer this. I mean, you can check out, I'm not a young man anymore. And I'm always interested in replacing myself and also duplicating, having more people. So I think that's one of those questions that the next generation of creation scientists may be able to give us some answers. I'm not so sure my generation is going to be able to do that for us.
Wow. Well, ladies and gentlemen, if you're joining me, you could come or send somebody that has that potential to meet Dr. Faulkner at the Creation Research Society this July and get some tips and some information from him, along with some other amazing scientists. Would love to have you there. That's fascinating. Hey, social media, I got to let you go. Would love you, if you're fascinated by this like I am. Dr. Faulkner's written a couple articles. They're on answersingenesis.org. I've got one pulled up here, Time, Space, and Gravity. How should creationists think about general relativity? And then the other one that I had pulled up was Special Relativity and Creation, a Brief Overview. And then you did another one. The third one was on
quantum mechanics.
Quantum mechanics. Oh, okay. We got to get into that with our partners here. Okay. We got to hit quantum mechanics. Real, ridiculous. What's the truth about that? For those of you joining me on social media, thank you. We meet here every Wednesday at noon. Try to equip you with information to help you grow your faith and turn stumbling blocks into stepping stones on your journey to Christ. If you want more information or want to learn how to have a relationship with your Creator, I've got the perfect place for you to go because it's the best gift you could ever receive. creationtoday.org/gift. creationtoday.org/gift. Would love to have you there. If you want to follow Dr. Danny Faulkner, you can find him on Facebook, along with his friend Teddy, who has a separate account on Facebook, and on answersingenesis.org. All of his writing and stuff there. Thank you, guys. Dr. Faulkner, did I miss anything, or is that good enough for announcements and that people can follow you all right at those two locations?
That's good. Yeah.
Perfect. All right. Look forward to seeing you guys next week. Hey, next week, got a great show for you. Fossil record fails. Dr. Faulkner and I's friend, Dr. Bryan Thomas, has his PhD in what could quite literally be showing all the fails of the fossil record, the things that they claim according to evolution and how they have utterly failed all throughout the geologic column. You don't want to miss next week. Until then, go share your faith with somebody who needs to hear it. And if you want to join us for all of these conversations, come over to creationtoday.org and become a partner with us to just reach the world and change the world for Christ. We'd love to have you over here. Until next week, share the gospel. God bless.